Yeah, it's a similar thing, but a bit more advanced.
Okay, so we'll start by talking about how it works. Well, the camera is basically, the whole virtual world revolves around the camera, so it's a centre point, and if you can see the camera, then the camera can see you. So, yeah, that's pretty much.
Essentially, instead of a camera and a lens pointing in one way, if you look at that little rig there, there's 6 cameras on there, and each of them are covering a whole 360-degree field of view, so everything's covered. And then that brings us on to camera rigs. So the one you can see there is called the Freedom 360, which is a bit of a DIY solution. It's actually a 3D printed chassis with 6 GoPros put inside it. The problem with these is they take a lot of setting up. It's all done individually. If you look at the little weird one there, the circular thing, that's actually made by Nokia, and it's called a Nokia Oza. It's very, very expensive. You're looking at about £40,000 upwards, but that stitches all the video for you automatically, and it also has loads of microphones built in there, the lenses, so you have surround sound. And then you've got the other ones like the Ricoh Theatre.
The Ricoh Theatre is a good. It's a consumer-based 360 camera. So it's £300. So obviously we wouldn't be using that, but we do use it to just experiment and see how our world can be seen in 360. So then we can think about ways of deploying the higher range rigs.
And the final one is the Samsung one, which is at the top there. That's £300 up. That can use Wi-Fi, connect to your Samsung phone, and you can do all the stitching on your phone. So it's great to take with events. It's very portable, and the quality is very good as well. It's 4K video.
Yeah, I mean there's many more rigs, but these are the ones that we sort of are on our radar.
That brings us on to the field of view.
So in terms of field of view, I mean, if you've ever watched one, you'll know that it's everything 360 on a flat plane, but also up and down, all around. The only thing you really have to block out is the light stand that it's on. Everything else is as you would see it as a normal person standing in that situation.
So there's a couple of different types of shots you can get on a 360 camera. Like you see set up there, that's what we call a static viewpoint. So it's not moving, it's stationary, and then obviously afterwards the viewer can navigate around it.
And this like some situations are more suited to static. I mean, if you're in a confined space and there's not there's a lot to take in, you don't really want to be moving around too much. So that's where we find it's better. In a lot of videos, you can have multi viewpoints and go and just keep changing. You can tell a lot more stories if you use a lot of statics.
And then you've got moving viewpoints, which is great for sports, anything like that. So the camera can be physically mounted either on someone's head, a bike, a car, and then that gives you a completely different perspective because it's moving, and then the viewer, the audience, can also move the camera as well.
Yeah, and we did some. We just put some on a car the other day and just drove around here, Mancunian Way, and it looks pretty cool.
So the next problem is basically stitching. So with video, once you record it, you've got your video, it's ready to go, you can edit it, you can do whatever you want with it. With that, for example there, you've got 6 individual video streams. That is not a 360 video, they've got to be what they call stitched together. So it looks something like this. So on that, there's 6 cameras. You can see here there's 6 different colours, and these are where the cameras are all stitched together basically. This is where the real work goes. If you put your finger in front of your eye, and you close one of your eyes, you'll see that your finger moves slightly, and this is called parallax. And this is a big problem. You can see here that this guy's arm is cut in half a bit, and that's because 2 cameras are seeing his arm from 2 different perspectives. So stitching is really where the magic happens, and the idea is to make it as seamless as possible. There's no video yet 360 that's 100% perfect, because a perfect rig doesn't exist yet, but it is getting better and better.
Yeah, and the technology is going towards self-stitching. Whereas at the moment, that's more on it's either on the high end or the low end, and the actual ones that most applications for video production companies we have to stitch. But you can imagine in the future that means for businesses that your post-production comes down and you can do more. You can do more in the production side of things.
And then once you've got your finished video, where does it go? So that's where we come on to platforms. And the first and one of the most popular ones is Facebook. And the great thing about Facebook is it integrates with Facebook directly, so there's no plugins, no third-party links. You make a 360 video, you stitch it together, you upload it, and then it works with your phone. And one of the most popular videos when Facebook launched it was the Star Wars 360 trailer. But has any of you guys seen that? Yeah, so that was one of the first ones which launched the platform, and that was very successful. So that brings us on to the next one, which is YouTube, which is probably the biggest player in 360 video at the moment. And you've probably all heard of Google Cardboard. So that's another Google product, which we'll come on to in a bit. But YouTube supports it natively, like Facebook, and it works on your mobile phone or your tablet.
Yeah, most of you will have watched it on. If you've watched it, most of you have watched it so far on YouTube.
And then another way to get it is through apps. So whether you've got an iOS device or an Android device, there's literally hundreds of apps that are in 360, so you can download them. Yeah. There's some really cool ones where you can be on a roller coaster, you can be underwater, it can put you in all different scenes.
And there's one particular app that we could recommend called VRSE, which is like basically cutting edge VR 360. Definitely worth downloading if ever you get a chance.
Yeah, it's actually so that one actually tells a story. They're like little films. A lot of them have won a lot of awards.
Some news reports. It could be live or constructed reality, but all really, really good quality.
And then that brings us on to the next is what are we actually viewing this on? So we've got the platform, but how is that finally being delivered to us? And the most popular way is through mobile devices. And this is really one of the reasons why 360 is such a great proposition, is the fact we've all got mobile phones, even if they're a few years old or whatever, they've all got gyroscopes built in, and straight away you watch the 360 video and the movements of your hands or your head with the headset is mapped to the phone, and it just works. So you don't need to buy any equipment to make it work. And this is why things like 3D, 3D has been actually going for nearly 100 years. And it's never truly succeeded, is because a lot of the time you've got to buy so much equipment to make it work. This works with what we've currently got.
Yeah, and that's not to say that you need the mobile technology to actually enjoy it. You can enjoy it on a PC or a laptop by you've seen it all with the circle in the top left, clicking around. You still get that feeling, but it's probably the least immersive way of consuming 360 video.
Yeah, but because you've got to navigate through a mouse. Or
it's still relevant, so it's relevant to the market's big.
Okay, and then as we just talked about YouTube and Google Cardboard, so these things are absolutely massive at the moment. And one of the reasons why these things are so popular is because they're so cheap. It's literally a piece of cardboard that's folded to make a headset with really cheap resin lenses. But the beauty about Google Cardboard is that put it on your head and your whole field of view is covered by the 360. So this means instead of holding your mobile phone and you're looking at your phone, you're actually really in that world. You're not
seeing the technology, and that's another level. And what's great about Google Cardboard obviously is there's obviously more advanced forms of it, but it's a mass market product. So it's everywhere. It's very cheap. It's like £5. And yeah, I mean, I know that Andy's branding them up quite a lot at the moment, and that is only, it's the same with video and the promotional merchandise industry. It's almost like there's an interest in it, and we're just waiting for it to pick up and snowball, and then it's just going to go everywhere. So this is, and I'm sure that's the same with the cardboard, but also there's the viewers like this one here, a bit more advanced.
Yeah, you can get plastic ones, so you get them that are basically better build quality, but they all essentially do the same thing.
Actually, Google Cardboard is not like there's 360 video and there's VR. They're not obviously the same. Well, they're not the same thing. VR is much more immersive and sound, engaging your middle ear and stuff. So, while Google Cardboard is not technically VR, even though it's been sold as such, it's the 360 video. Yeah. And if you wanted VR, a true VR experience, then that's like your Oculus Rift headset proper.
Has anyone heard of the Oculus Rift? So they do two versions. They actually do one which is called Gear VR, which is designed for like your Samsung type devices, which works with your phone. It's pretty much an elaborate Google Cardboard. But the other one they do, which is the Oculus Rift, actually connects to your computer, and obviously computers have got much more processing power in the graphics card. So you can get much more immersive scenes, you can get motion sensors with your arms and things. So it's more for gaming and things like that, but you can literally, all your movements are mapped into the scene.
Well, what's great about the Google Cardboards is it's bridging the gap between that VR that's been around for so long and the mass markets, and giving people more of that sort of 360 immersive experience for everyone.
Yeah. So why 360 excites us? We're a traditional video-based company, and the reasons why it excites us.
Yeah, it's just there's a few limitations like to sort of traditional video, in the sense that it's very directional, the focus of video. So whatever's in the scene, it's limited. The canvas is limited, and the director will decide what's going on in that scene. There's a spot, it's like there's a spotlight, and it's always on. Whereas with 360, the spotlight's everywhere, and yeah, it's very controlled. So we are really intrigued by that, because it's not like, whereas a lot of people think it might be a fad, actually we look at it and think this is a totally separate thing. This is a totally separate experience. That whilst it might have, it's going to have its ups and downs, it's probably going to have a turbulent, a bit of a rocky road at the start. It is going to stay around.
I mean, it's as simple as if you watch a live event, the shot that you're watching, although it's live, has been constructed, it's been chosen, it's predetermined. 360 video, it can be like you're actually there, which is great for things like live events.
We'll come on to that there. So, like we said, it's a truly unique experience for us personally, but I'm sure a lot of people who do actually try it and get involved, I'm sure it's the same. So what we liken it to really is if you're scuba diving, that when you put on your gear and you go underwater, your senses are sort of totally controlled. It's an individual experience. You decide where you go, you decide what you see, and it's a world that revolves around you. You're not doing it for other people really, and that really is what makes it unique.
It's immersive because you control it, you're in the scene, and you decide what's happening. You're not getting it spoon-fed to you, basically.
And in terms, from a business perspective, we always talk about brands forming emotional connections and engaging people emotionally. And in terms of that, it has a really high value. So it's like your empathy for the camera is, you can imagine it being a person in that situation. So you have a lot of empathy for what's being seen and what's being how your senses are being stimulated. So they're seeing, hearing, feeling it, and that's a higher state of consciousness than a lot of media that's out there at the moment.
You can literally be in someone else's shoes. There's quite a powerful one done where you're in a prison. I don't know if anyone's seen that. And you rotate around, there's all words that come up on the wall, and you can hear like psychologists and other people explaining what happens to you when you're in prison, and you hear the inmates. Like, you really feel like you're there. And when you're with the headset on, and you take it off, and then you realise you're just in your living room, you're like, whoa, it's a bit weird.
I think of that particular video, the sound of it is what really, sound is so important in 360, because once you're there, you're there, you can get, if there was no sound, you get bored quite quickly. That's your narrative, that's taking you through. So it's really crucial. And actually, next slide about storytelling.
So with storytelling, there's a lot of 360 videos you see, and they're not stories; they're just shots of locations or whatever. So storytelling is something great that you can do within 360. So you don't just have to have one shot; you can still edit it, and you can have stories within those things.
Yeah. Look, there is the real perspective of things actually, and live events actually happening around you, but then. That's not to say you can't control the situation. You can't, you can use directional sound, you can sound design, you can use actors, you can guide people. If they are stood there, you can guide their attention to anywhere within that 360 plane by drawing their attention. So for obviously marketers and business people, that's very, very appealing.
There's a great, the BBC did a great with David Attenborough. I don't know if anyone's seen that, and he's in front of the camera, sort of talking about, I think it was dinosaurs, and that's a really good one. So that's a good example of storytelling. And then another really important point of it is access,
which is more related to real constructions of from a business. So if you a lot of businesses have, present themselves in a through video or through 2D projections, and a lot of that is how you want to be seen yourself. So what a 360 does is if there's areas that where there are restricted access, remote access, it can put a perspective there that enables people to lean into your world, to make your business feel more open and consumer orientated. They don't necessarily need to go there, but they feel like they've had an experience of what your business is all about, and that I can imagine that being really appealing to a lot of companies who've had problems with PR and stuff like that in the past. It's a very good way of opening up. And also people, a lot of people, if you think you're in a business, and this is more internal comms related, but if you're in a business and then there's and it's a big business and there's the management, and you think, I don't know much about them, they're mysterious figures, and you're more likely to then resent them if they don't communicate with you very often. Whereas 360 is a great way of getting into their world and them actually, like 360 board meetings is a great way of them communicating with their workforce.
Yes, imagine, in the future your Skypes and your video conference calls, they will be 360. As Mike touched on, live events is a massive thing for 360. Yep. You can't get a ticket or you can't go. Amazing. Remote locations where you couldn't ever access, or for security you couldn't ever access.
Everest.
It can take you there. And next is innovation. Why is it so innovative?
Yeah, because I was just thinking. Well, yeah.
Anyway, the point is not to look at the presentation and look at us, and we're going to make up a little something because that isn't right. Basically, no, it's really innovative in a simple sense. The audience controls it, where audiences don't normally control video. There's multiple viewpoints, and I'll pass my comments. I don't know what else to say.
Also, though, what I would say to anybody who's thinking about it at the moment is, it will put you, because it's new media, it's a new perspective. It will appear to your target audience that you are engaging new technologies. You are pushing forward boundaries in your industry. It make you look like a very vibrant company, and it's engaging people. Like, so I think it's 3 times as much as just a standard video or a standard perspective. A 360 video engages people more, so it's great for sharing on social media. It's multi-use.
They're more likely to be watched through to the end because of the fact that the 360 and traditional video. In fact, YouTube have started supporting it on their adverts. Before you watch something, you can have a 360 advert. So there's lots of innovative ways, not just storytelling, but advertising and all sorts of things as well. And even theme parks now are starting to use it. Where you can put on this 3D headset, you go on a roller coaster, and you don't know where you are. You can be anywhere. So there's loads of cool applications for it. Which brings on to the final slide, which it's got the same.
But anyway, our 360 like sort of.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a problem with you.
I think it's problem.
So, but yeah, like for us, really, we've embraced it, and we're looking at our world a lot more in 360 and how we can apply it to Brickhouse as a company. We're learning all the time, and but what we've learned hasn't put us off at all. In fact, it's inspired us, and we just hope it's kind of it's the same for you guys. You can see it in 360, and it can inspire you too, just like it has us. And what do you guys think?
No, I think
there's questions there at the end. Then
you've got any questions?
Any questions?
That's like.
So I know you're mainly based filmmaking, but have you looked into creating more sort of, I don't know, animation or stuff using the 360?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the great thing about 360 is it is just an infrastructure. So if you want to make something in 3D animation, you can, and it's just a completely different way of doing it. But you can do anything you could do traditionally with animation. You can do it in 360.
Yeah. Yeah, you get it, absolutely. And we work with animators regularly. We haven't actually done a 360 animation project yet, but we're more looking at the film side of things, because we think that it's the access. A lot of the time, one of our clients is a recruiter, and they have big problems getting with people not when they get to the places, warehouses. You know, it's a pretty horrible place to work. When they get there, they think, oh, this is horrible. I want to get out of there. You know, and so they have a high lane of turnover. So sort of, it's a way of seeing into their world without actually going there. So that's an application. There's lots of things like that. So we really look at virtual worlds.
I think the uses are just then as animations are, a massive one. In fact, if you download the Google Cardboard app, when you open it, there's a really nice animation. And the other thing that we've not mentioned is actually this does work in 3D. So if you've got your 3D films, like what you'd watch on a Blu-ray or whatever, they actually work with Google Cardboard, because it splits it into a left and right image. So there's some cool 3D animations that you can watch, which is great. So that's another layer of immersion that you can have with it. It's a good question. Any more questions?
Anyone else then? Have you, what sort of content have you watched, like, in 360? Anyone been watching any? Football? Yeah, well, that's a classic. But, I mean, how did you find it?
Quite
But how long did you watch it for?
about 3 or 4 minutes.
So you find yourself looking at more the audience again? Yeah. It's a feeling, isn't it? Because you get the atmosphere. You're not just seeing a shot of the pitch. You're actually seeing the crowd. You're hearing it. It puts you in the scene.
It's the atmospheric aspect when it's a live event. So I mean, I can imagine we actually said we obviously weren't too innovative, but the other week we were saying, like, wouldn't it be great if you had Glastonbury, and then if you couldn't go, then it finishes and you can just pay like 10, 15 quid and watch the whole thing over 3 days. 360. But then last week we were talking about it, and it turns out some companies already thought of that and are already trying to do that on festivals and sell that package. So that's live events is driving it forward. But then there's all these other applications for businesses that I don't think are being explored as much, and we're trying to apply them to our clients. It's not the easiest sell. I'm not gonna lie to you, because they're a bit. They think it's easier to tell a story in traditional video, which often it is, but there's a lot of value to experiment with 360 at the moment. Really, like it puts you in front of a lot of people, and like I say, the accessibility side of things really innovative.
Because it works with the tech we've already got. I think that's why it won't be a fad. I can think like VR, maybe doesn't have as much legs as 360 video, because you have to have these, Oculus Rifts and these really expensive rigs. But with things like Google Cardboard, so cheap and accessible, I think it's going to work well as a completely different platform.